Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to call the caucus meeting of Monday, January 24th, 2022 to order, please. If you will all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be conducted by Councilman Dawson.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good afternoon, everyone. This is a hybrid meeting. 4 members of County Council are online. That is Mr. Dawson, Mr. Flewelling, Mr. Hervishon, and Mr. McKellen. The other 7 members are in attendance. Public notice of this meeting has been published, posted, and distributed in compliance with the South Carolina Freedom of Information Act. I would ask a member of council to make a motion to approve the caucus agenda. Mr. Rodman makes the motion.
Second.
Mr. Somerville makes the second. Is there any discussion? The caucus agenda will be approved without any objections, and no objections are noted. The review of the council agenda. I would have people look at the following items before we discuss the consent agenda. Item number 12, we've been talking about this numerous times. We do know that there are several council members who are opposed to this. It is not, what we are talking about in this particular agenda item is where is the money coming from? If you are voting yes, you are saying you will take the money from our surplus funds. If you are voting no, you're saying we would prefer to use TAG funds. So that's the essence of item number 12. Item number 14. This was moved from the Finance Committee for recommendation for County Council to take action. In between time, we knew that there was going to be a meeting held with the Public Defender's Office. That meeting was held. After that meeting, this item is no longer needed, so we will amend the agenda to either pull the item from the agenda or take action to say no to this item, because it has been resolved that they can do what they want to do with the existing funds within their budget, but come to us as part of the budget process with the complete package of needs. And then finally, item number 25 is the Citizens Advisory Committee. You will see the resolution. We will have to have a discussion about timelines, deadlines, how we go about getting these people, the whens, the wheres, and the hows before we take some action. So any comments about those 3 items? Mr. Rodman.
Yeah, I think it'd be useful to talk briefly about the Defender one, whether we do it in caucus or at the main meeting. I have no problem with pulling it. But
we can certainly talk about it. But first, before we do that, let's go through the rest of the agenda to see if there's any, because we do have an executive session that is going to take some time.
Wherever you want to talk about it, it'd be useful to talk about it someplace.
Yeah. Okay, the consent agenda has everybody had a chance to look at that, make sure they understand the items that are on the consent agenda? Okay, that looks to be okay. Any of the other items on the agenda that anyone has a concern about? Okay, seeing none, Mr. Rodman, regarding the public defender in item number 14.
Yes, you know, this came forward to us because we were looking at the solicitor's budget, and then this grew out of that discussion. And there was some open issues about whether or not we had gotten enough information from the solicitor's office. So I did ask him for the information, and he was kind enough to send a sheet that they had compiled what the amount of revenues and expenses were, with a good breakdown over the last 6 years, which I summarized in a sheet that I think you probably have before you for those that are here. And essentially, it provides some insight as to where the revenues came from and where they were going. So, for example, on the revenue side, there's about, over 6 years, about 10 million came from Beaufort County, about 9 million from the state, about 3.5 million from the other 4 counties in the circuit, and about 2 million from various fees and programs that they have. The expenses sorted down about 16 million for Beaufort in the central office, about 8 million for the other counties, and about $500,000 each for programs and matching grants. So we don't need to do anything, but since it had been asked, I thought it would be useful.
This is great information for us to have as we develop both of the budgets.
And I think we probably need a similar type of recap in some form from the defender, because I'm not sure we have much knowledge, as I don't, as to what everybody else is contributing, what's coming from the state, what kind of programs they have. The other thing, I had a conversation with Duffy about the pay levels, because that's important. And he said what they do at the solicitor's office is they use the same pay scale as the South Carolina attorneys, the federal attorneys use, because he was losing people to those. So it seemed kind of logical. And so I said to him, would it be logical to have the same pay scale for the defenders so everything was equal? And he said, yes, that would probably be good. And I don't know where they fall on that. And then if in fact you ended up doing that, then the question would be, how many do you need? So if you were comparing the defender's office to the solicitor's office, obviously some cases they have their own lawyers, so you have probably about 70% here, 80% nationally, where the public defender is involved. And the prosecutors, probably have more effort per case, because some cases, like grand juries and ones that aren't indicted or held over for court, the defender's not involved, and it's probably easier to catch up and defend. They probably don't put as much time in. So anyway, it's long-winded, but I do think that it's worth taking a look at, making sure that we have parity between the two, because we want to have equal justice for everybody. So the other piece that came up when Larry and I were talking was whether or not whether elected officials have the ability to go ahead and set things like their own salaries. So what I said to him was that my sense is that they've got a fair amount of flexibility to do what it is they want to do, but they're also intelligent enough to know that they do it at budget time, so that they're not doing it in a vacuum, and they know that we've approved the budget. So I don't know whether the defender falls in that category or not, because we don't want to get in a position where they go and make a commitment that then is a commitment to people's lives on something that we haven't approved. So I'm kind of interested in kind of what the deal is that they think they're okay for the rest of the year.
Good.
Did I capture that right, Larry?
Yeah, and if I could just take a moment, Mr. Chairman, and seeking some clarification on that. And it's a good point that was raised with regard to whether appointed and elected officials have the ability to set their own pay scales. And of course, in a budget submission, they request money. And I suppose that in the money that comes in for the beginning of every fiscal year, the budget that comes in, there are pay scales that are set. I don't understand how salaries can be adjusted in the middle of a fiscal year with money that was allocated for one purpose. That purpose has been thwarted, so the money is there. So instead of not spending it on the purpose it was allocated for, it's being incorporated into raises for employees in that department. And I'm curious to know if we could clarify for me, whose responsibility is it to set the salary scales for people within the county? Is this something that the county administrator does? Is this something that the department heads do? And if that's the case, and department heads have the ability in midstream to give people raises, why can't everybody give people raises in midstream? I'm a little confused about this because I think if these raises are provided in the middle of a fiscal year, when the new fiscal year starts, those raises will have already been memorialized, institutionalized, so that we will be getting a budget that will include those raises that nobody's authorized unless it was just the department head. So I'm seeking clarity here on who has the ability to control who gets paid within the county when we have a department. On that matter, there's another thing I'm concerned about. It appears the Public Defender's Office, and we need to have the very best we can get, fall outside the purview of getting cost of living adjustments. And I'm confused about that. And I'm raising the question because I'd like to know if there are any other departments within the county that don't get cost of living raises when county employees get them. Because who are the people that work at the Public Defender's Office? Are they on contracts? Are they state employees? Are they county employees? And if they're county employees, how can they not receive the COLAs, which would keep them more or less even with everyone else in the county who's getting a cost of living adjustment? I think the last one they received was 6 years ago, and that's just not fair. So there's a lot of unanswered questions I have, and I'm not sure who's in charge of this and who's in charge of payroll, who's in charge of setting salaries, and who has the authority to do that without the authority of county council approving it.
Okay.
Does that sound, was that a rambling and confusing statement?
No. Rambling, yes. Confusing, no. Mr. Greenway will make an attempt to answer that.
I'm going to make an attempt to answer the part about those employees that come underneath the responsibility of the county administrator. So department heads and those underneath the county administrator cannot give raises to employees mid-year, and it has to be a part of the budget process. If you all recall, when we did the budget, we had you all allocate raises to the employees in accordance with the common class study by Evergreen, and then we brought that study back for you all to actually vote on and approve, and that is the study that binds us to that. That does not apply to elected officials. If you're going to ask me under what authority, statutory authority that applies, I'll have to defer to our legal team on that, and they may have to look that up and research that and come back with an answer since we didn't have advanced knowledge of this question. And also the same would be with the Public Defender's Office. There are some governmental organizations that are not really county employees that we handle payroll for and things like that that fall outside again of the responsibility of the county administration. So I'll defer to Kurt and let him designate whoever he wants from the legal team that's here this evening to answer that question. Yes, sir.
Mr. Somerville.
Yeah, I'm going to take a chance here on my memory, but as I recall, constitutional officers, elected officials, such as the public defender and many others, salaries are set by state.
Wait a minute. What category is, where does the public defender fall? Elected or a constitutional officer?
It's appointed, I think.
Constitutional officer. They're not elected.
Yeah, they're appointed.
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that.
Solicitor is elected, I believe,
Solicitor is clearly elected.
and a defender is appointed.
Public defender, I don't know.
And Paul, before you go into your memory banks, can I just develop that question a little further? If the public defender is permitted to give raises in the middle of the year without county council authority and doesn't need it, what's to prevent, once that precedent is set, to have the other 5 or 6 elected officials also just give everybody a raise in the middle of the year as of tomorrow?
I think, subject to being corrected, that when we approve their budget, they have the right to move things around within that budget. And I think they can give raises during the year as long as it's within their budget. I don't see any reason why they can't. Now, that's Paul Somerville's opinion, so.
Well, it's in the budget because there are vacancies in every department because there's recruiting and retention problems. So it may be that everybody has some extra money, so then are they then authorized to just disperse it as they see fit?
I think so.
Yeah, so a couple of things here. We will, because we have a lengthy executive session that we're going to cover several things, let us find a time in the county administration to thoroughly research all of these questions that have been asked, and we will provide an update at the appropriate committee, probably the executive committee, at the next committee meeting of the executive committee. We will have an answer, a very detailed answer, and lay out all of this for you all, for elected officials, constitutional officers, and county administrator employees as well, so that we can answer all of those questions for you all in a thorough manner.
Eric, there's another category. It would be appointed officials. That would be another group of interest. And while you're doing all that research, could you also have someone just give me a brief overview, not tonight, but in the future, on what the car purchase program is within Beaufort County when the county is buying things?
We will.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any other items to discuss before we go into the executive session? Mr. Radman?
Just to wrap that one up, then, am I assuming correctly that we as a county have not given approval to a pay raise for the defender at this point?
Correct.
Okay.
Well, whoa, I think we have.
No, we
I
haven't.
think she's going back and is going to give everybody 6% raise.
You're not required, at this point, you're not required to approve pay raises for the public defender. And we've met with her and we've explained to her her personnel vacancy savings, and she now understands that she has that money available to her currently to do what she had initially requested for the remainder of this budget year.
Right. That's exactly
So you all
right.
don't have to approve that, because she's not asking for any more money from you all for her budget.
So that everybody can do that is my point.
The way Beaufort County has operated with those positions and elected officials, then yes, you are correct. Everyone can do that. That it fits in those categories.
They do it
Stand by
somewhat at their
for
own
income.
risk.
Okay.
Hold on, if I might interject, Mr. Chairman. My recollection of it is fairly close to Paul's. But note that Duffy Stone, the public defender, and potentially other officers in the area are not within the county jurisdiction. And so what they do with their dollar that we apply to their budget, it's their budget. And so they can buy cars, they can do whatever they want. When they come back next year, we start with a baseline for budgeting purposes, what we gave them last year. It's called maintenance of effort. And so we start with the same amount, and they try to justify to us why they may need more money from Beaufort County. That does not apply to countywide jurisdictional officers such as the sheriff, the clerk of court, the treasurer, the auditor. I think that's it. Maybe there's one more. And those people justify their budgets, and they are part of our pay scale. They can only hire as many people as we had previously said within the budgetary amount that we gave them. They can't suddenly pay people 5 times the expected level. They might be able to fudge a little bit here and there and be able to justify it with HR in order to fill all the seats, but they're required to stay within the limits of the budget that we've authorized and keep some kind of parity with other county employees that are not within their jurisdiction. And I'm fairly sure that's codified. That at least I read an opinion from the Attorney General about it. Thank you.
Okay. All right. I would ask a member of council, Mr. Cunningham.
Yeah, quick question. I don't know if a lot of you guys saw, but the library finished up in Bluffton. I spent this week going over to look at some of the remodels as well. I just had a question to see if we had an update on the other library status at New Riverside.
Yes, we do have an update on that. It's one I'm not able to share publicly this evening. We will give you that at the next Natural Resources Committee meeting, the first Monday of February.
Okay,
So,
thank
but
you.
yeah, we do have a status of that.
Okay. I would ask a member of council to make a motion to go into executive session for items 8, 9, and 10 on the agenda, which is to discuss the opioid litigation, the agency claim of Myrtle Park, and the extension of the time to apply for the special property tax assessment ratio. A motion, please. Mr. Glover makes the motion.
Well, second.
Ms. Howard makes the second. Any discussion? This will be approved without objection, and I see no objections. It is now 5:20. We will be back before 6 o'clock. We are in recess. from our executive session. During the executive session, there were 3 items. We were only able to discuss 2 of those items. The 3rd item will be discussed this evening. Therefore, we are not going to adjourn the caucus meeting. We're going to recess the caucus meeting and take it up after the county council meeting. So at this time, bearing no other action, the caucus meeting will be in recess until the close of the county council meeting. And in a couple minutes, we will begin the county council meeting. Would like to call the County Council meeting of Beaufort County for Monday, January 24th, 2022 to order. Would you all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and then remain standing? Mr. Dawson will lead us in the pledge and the invocation. Mr. Dawson.
Can you hear me, Joe?
Yes, sir.
Joe, I can't hear you.
Hold
Hello?
on.
Hello?
Sorry.
Okay, can you hear us now?
I can hear you now.
Okay, very good.
Let us pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the
to the
flag
flag
of
of
the
the
United
United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty
liberty
and
and justice for all. Let us pray, if you will. Our Father and our God, Father, we thank you for your love and kindness. We thank you, O God, for your many blessings. For you have blessed us to see this day. You have blessed us and guided us as we went throughout the day. And you have blessed us, O Father God, in allowing us this council to assemble. We ask you now, O Father God, to guide us through our deliberations and our discussions. Give us your divine guidance, O Father God, that we will make wise and prudent decisions that are most beneficial to all the citizens of the county. And then, Father God, I ask you that if we disagree, let us disagree in love, for we know that is your divine will for your people. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
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 Attendance has been taken. We do have a full council to do the business of county council. 4 of those members are online. Mr. Dawson, Mr. Flewelling, Mr. Hervishon, and Mr. McKellen. All other members are here in person. Public notice of this meeting has been published, posted, and distributed in compliance with the South Carolina Freedom of Information Act. I would ask a member of the council to make a motion to approve tonight's county council agenda. Mr. Rodman makes the motion.
As I understand, Mr. Chairman, we're deleting item number 14.
Yes, we can delete item number 14.
So a motion to amend the agenda?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, it's a motion to amend the agenda to delete item number 14. May I have a second to that motion?
I will second that.
Ms. Howard makes the second. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, the agenda will be amended to delete item number 14, and I see no objection. Therefore, I need a motion.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir?
Mr. Chairman, so that the public understands why we deleted that.
Yes, this item has been deleted because after discussion with the Public Defender's Office, the item is not necessary at this point in time. So I need a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Make the motion.
Mr. Lawson makes the motion. A second, please.
Second. I'll second.
Mr. Dawson makes the second. Duly motioned and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, the agenda will be approved as amended without objection, and I see no objections. Okay, next will be the approval of the minutes for October 25th and November 8th. May I have a motion for the approval of those minutes, please? Mr. Lawson makes the motion. Second?
I'll second, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Cunningham makes the second. Duly motioned and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, the minutes will be approved without objection, and I see no objections. Therefore, the minutes are approved. We now turn to our administrator for his report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, members of the County Council and the citizens of Beaufort County who are here with us this evening, and also who are watching either at home through the county channel or those of you all that are joining us via Zoom. I have 3 employees to introduce to you all this evening. Our first employee comes to us from our assessor's office. Robert, come on up, please. This is Robert Walters. He works in our assessor's department. As I said, he is an appraisal technician. He's been with us for 13 and a half years, so a rather long serving employee. He's responsible for field inspection of real property to ensure the accuracy of the information, including but not limited to exterior and interior physical inspection of properties to determine quality, condition, and other characteristics. Does field measuring, completes inspection forms for entry into the computer-assisted mass appraisal system. He does on-site interviewing of property owners and tenants for gathering of real estate physical characteristics, field inspection, and approval and denial of agricultural use applications. Let me tell you that I can imagine that Robert probably deals with some very intense situation when he's out looking at people's property. For him to be able to do that for 13 and a half years speaks to his character and his ability to deal with the public in an effective manner. So Robert, thank you for your service. I'm going to let you say a few words here to council, and then we're going to give you a round of applause for your service to the county. Thank you.
I'd just like to say I'd like to share this with my teammates from the assessor's office. Without their knowledge and support, I wouldn't be able to do my job. Thank you.
Do you provide Robert with a weapon as he does his job?
No, yeah, hopefully they don't need those at this point. I'm going to introduce the next 2 employees together. So Colt and Caleb, come on up, please. So I'm going to introduce these 2 guys, and then I'm going to read a little bit about them. We have Colt Moss with our Emergency Medical Services Department, and we have Caleb Nancarvis with Emergency Medical Services as well. Colt, raise your hand. Mask on, so I can't identify you. So Colt is a paramedic. He's worked with Beaufort County EMS for 4 years. 2 of those years as a paramedic. He is an allied health professional whose primary focus is to provide advanced emergency medical care for critical and emergent patients who access the emergency medical system. He possesses complex knowledge and skill necessary to provide patient care and transportation. Paramedics function as a part of a comprehensive EMS response under medical oversight. Paramedics perform interventions with the basic and advanced equipment technically found on an ambulance. The paramedic is a link from the scene of an emergency into the healthcare system. Those last words that I read there was from the National EMS Scope of Practice model. So Caleb here is an emergency medical technician, basic EMT. He's been with us only 5 months, so we're looking forward to a bright future for him. Emergency medical technicians provide out-of-hospital emergency medical care and transportation for critical and emergent patients who access the emergency medical services system. EMTs have knowledge and skills necessary to stabilize and safely transport patients, ranging from non-emergency and routine medical transport to life-threatening emergencies. And I'm going to go off script here a little bit. I often say that these guys and the other people that work in our EMS system, they see some things that many of us as normal citizens would think unthinkable and would be unbearable for us to encounter. So they play a big role for us. They see a lot of things. They play a very important role, and we need to make sure that we're providing for them properly, both from a personnel standpoint, but also from an emotional standpoint as well for the things that they have to deal with in the field.
Emergency medical technicians perform interventions with basic equipment typically found on an ambulance. Emergency medical technicians are a critical link between the scene of emergency and the healthcare system. So Chris, or Caleb, is originally from Pennsylvania, grew up with 4 other siblings and his parents. When he's not at work, he enjoys the outdoors and watching hockey, like a good Philadelphia guy there, I guess. In the future, Caleb plans to attend school to obtain his paramedic certification and continue his career in EMS. And something unique about Colt, he has 8 years of prior military service operating as a medic for an infantry battalion. He is originally from Newberry, South Carolina, and moved to Beaufort almost 5 years ago with his family. When away from work, Colt enjoys boating, fishing, and spending time with his family. And Colt says that being a paramedic for Beaufort County EMS is truly rewarding. This is a little lengthy, but I have something else I want to share with you all about these two. This is why I have them standing up here with me together. And this is a letter that we recently received from Patrolman Seth Jones with the City of Beaufort Police Department. It's to Donna Owenby, the EMS Director. I am extremely proud to be compiling this letter of recommendation for EMT Nan Carvis and Paramedic Moss of EMS 7. Due to the extra efforts of these individuals going the extra step and being more than just the call taker, the actions of these individuals thwarted a possible tragic incident from occurring. I want to bring light to a specific incident that occurred on December 10th, 2021. EMT Nan Carvis and Paramedic Moss were dispatched at 23:55 hours regarding a report of an EMS pain call for service. I'm assuming, I'm a civilian, but I'm assuming that said 5 minutes before midnight. So if I'm incorrect, that's you all can correct me. The pain call for service that was discovered to be in fact an altered mental status. These individuals, while dealing with an indecisive subject, exercised extraordinary patience and compassion. Upon seeing the patient was in need of mental health assistance and her showing signs of distrust and apprehensiveness, these individuals went out of their way to make reasonable accommodation to ease the patient's fears while still carrying out their respective jobs in a professional manner. These individuals went above simply responding to the call and instead gave the situation the appropriate amount of time it deserved to provide the patient with outstanding medical assistance. Through speaking with the patient over an extended period of time, these individuals were successful in gaining the patient's trust, allowing them to assist her with seeking assistance for a crisis. Even after having been notified, they were not required by officers for a second call for service for this patient. These individuals responded anyway to ensure the patient was provided the assistance she desperately needed. It is, in my opinion, as a law enforcement officer, EMT Nan Carvis and Paramedic Moss went above what was required of them to truly help a member of this community that we serve, and that EMT Nan Carvis and Paramedic Moss should be recognized for their outstanding performance and professionalism. You all know that mental illness is something that's very close to me. I spend a lot of my energy on dealing with that. It's something that we face here all the time. And I want to thank you, and I want to thank you for your service to that individual that night and for what you all did. So I'll give each of you a brief few moments here to say a few words to them, and then we're going to give you a well-deserved round of applause for your service.
Could you all introduce your family, please?
Yes, I will. One at a time. This is my wife, Jessica. This is my youngest son, Zane, my son, Zach, and my daughter, Amber. And like you said, I've been here for almost 5 years. I worked for Beaufort for 4. I do have prior military service. One of the biggest reasons I wanted to finally go through and go to paramedic school was because I did the same thing in the military, and I felt like I could do more for the community by, bringing the knowledge I already have and being able to put it to use. But thank y'all for everything tonight.
Thank you.
Right, first of all, I want to thank y'all for having us. I've only been here for a few months, but working with people like Paramedic Moss and Director Owenby, I've learned a lot, and it's been a really rewarding experience, and I look forward to continuing my career with the county. So thank you.
Thank you.
And then I just have three additional brief items that I need to make, or two additional brief items that I need to make you all aware of. Two of them resolve around our finance department, and Councilmember Herbert will be pleased to know, in addition to the rest of you all, that we have submitted the annual comprehensive financial report to the Comptroller General on Friday afternoon of January 21st, 2022. That was in advance of their extended deadline of December 31st. So I think that might be the first time that that's been achieved here in Beaufort County. I've been told that it's the earliest that an audit has been done in Beaufort County in some time. So next year, our goal is to make sure we meet the December 31st deadline. The second item with regards to... Somebody want to say something?
Well done.
Oh, thank you. The second thing is the county received the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting for the fiscal year that ended on June 30th, 2020. So you were told that we were going after that award. We did receive it. And then finally, as a result of that audit, I'm pleased to report to you all through past actions of the Chairman of Finance, Mr. Herbert and Mr. Lawson, the past administrator and the management of the county through the staff. That audit revealed that not only are we carrying a lot of money through ARPA at this point, but we also have an additional $17.8 million surplus in the county. So we will be bringing forth a plan to you all to advise you on how we would recommend you handle spending that money. Some of the things that we're looking at will be hiring and retention money for critical areas of the county for us to hire people to be more competitive with our hiring structure, retention for employees in our departments due to the service of the job that they did in helping us achieve that surplus. There will be some what I call ankle biter building projects that do not rise to the level of facilities master plan type of things, but things that need to be done. Like one of the examples is we have hundreds of thousands of dollars of lawnmower equipment that just sit out in the open in the rain and the weather. And we need to build some open sheds to protect those from the weather. We have mosquito control trucks that sit out in the weather, and that means we have to replace the nozzles on those at a much faster rate. And then, so those are some of the things that we'll be bringing forth to you all in a plan. So, Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report. I apologize that it was a little more lengthy tonight.
That's quite all right.
Thank you.
I need to come to the podium now myself. Mr. Greenway, will you join me at the podium, please? For everyone who's here, pardon my back, so that I can announce this, so that everyone can see us on television. In December, our administrator, Mr. Eric Greenway, was one of 39 Low Country leaders to graduate from the Riley Institute award-winning Diversity Leaders Initiative offered through Furman University. This program is designed to equip leaders with tools and perspectives needed to leverage diversity as a way to improve organizational outcomes and drive social and economic progress in South Carolina. To complete this program, Eric took part in an intensive discussion and scenarios that allowed him to openly examine sensitive issues related to diversity and inclusion, while gaining tools to help him develop diversity strategies within our own organization. Participants of this program are selected through a rigorous application and interview process and are accepted based upon their capacity to create impact within their organizations and communities. Each class is crafted to reflect the diverse demographics in South Carolina. To graduate from this prestigious program means you become a member of a powerful cross-sector network of South Carolina leaders. And Dr. Don Gordon said, "Now, more than ever, leaders must come together to identify ways to unite communities in the pursuit of better outcomes for all." I look forward to seeing how the newest Riley Fellows continue to drive positive change in their workplaces and communities with the tools they've gained in DLI, even in these unprecedented times. So, Mr. Greenway, congratulations. We're honored. By the way, two of the graduates are also Dr. Goff from TCL and Superintendent Rodriguez. Superintendent Rodriguez. And two of our sitting council members are also graduates of that program, Mr. Somerville and Ms. Howard. So congratulations to all of you. Thank you. Okay, we are at our citizen comments, and Mr. McDonald, you wish to make a comment? Please come forward.
Thank you, council members. My name is Mike McDonald. I've lived in Beaufort County for 43 years. It's a great place to live. I've been a contractor since 1988, and I'm here to represent two potential clients. And they are property owners in Beaufort County, and we oppose the $9,535 impact fee, which brings the current impact fees to around $15,000 before the permit. The $9,535 impact fee could pay for the installation of a well and a septic system on certain areas that do not have access to public water and sewer. As of Friday, research I did, the additional fee is not collected by Hilton Head or Bluffton. I believe $9,535 is too high of a tax for infill lots. And for clarification, infill lots in my business are lots in already established neighborhoods, not new tract developments. I think the council should consider repealing or amending the $9,535 additional impact fee. And if it's not repealed or amended, then perhaps there could be some exclusion for infill lots. Properties purchased before the adoption of the new fee should also be exempt from the subject, should be exempt or subject to a reduced rate. Perhaps the tax should be based on the value of the home to be constructed, much like the cost of a building permit. I know the vote was 7-4 to pass the new impact fee. And that leads me to believe that there was some disagreement. And I just heard the word unite, and I wrote that down here because I think Beaufort County needs to unite and possibly find another way to collect the $89 million for the schools. Share the burden among all the citizens and not just pile it on the new construction and the building industry south of the Broad River. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Seeing none, we will close the citizen comments and move to the committee reports. Any member of council wish to make a committee report? No? Oh, Mr. Rodman.
Yeah, we got a couple items, Mr. Chairman, on the consent agenda. Three of them relate to applications for the American Rescue Plan. And you may remember we as a county are getting 37 million, and we have a plan for that, and that's going through as kind of a budgetary approval. These particular ones kind of fall outside of that, and so these are just purely applications. And in fact, we've been talked internally that we may get away from approving the applications and just leave that up for the county administrator. We have another item, which is the contract for J. Bragg Consulting to help with the transportation program management, which is important relative to all the things we have going on. And that's for $410,000, but that's kind of a budgetary number. It actually was a request for qualification, and it's the payments would actually be based on approvals by the county at the agreed upon rates. Lastly, there's a couple of appointments to various boards. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other comments? Mr. Somerville?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On the consent agenda, there is an item for third reading on the redistricting of Beaufort County for the Beaufort County Council and the Beaufort County School Board. After a considerable amount of public input, we finally reached something we think that's going to satisfy as many people as possible, and this will be third and final reading on that tonight.
Okay. Seeing no other comments, we will move to the item number 9, which is the approval of the consent agenda. May I have such a motion, please?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Rodman makes the motion. And who makes the second?
I'll make the second.
Mr. Lawson, you'll make the second? Okay, duly motioned and seconded for the approval. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, the consent agenda will be approved without objection, and I see no objections. Item number 10 is matters arising out of the caucus executive session. The first item will be item number 8. Mr. Somerville, will you read that motion, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that council approve a proposed South Carolina opioid settlement allocation agreement with the Attorney General and authorize the county administrator to execute any and all documents which are necessary. 1, to continue and to finalize negotiations relative to a South Carolina opioid settlement allocation agreement, and 2, for the county to participate in settlements between the county and certain defendants named in case number 2018-CP-07-01245, including McKesson Corporation, Cardinal Health, Inc., and Amerisource Bergen Corporation, collectively the distributors, and Johnson & Johnson, Janssen Pharmaceuticals, Inc., Ortho McNeil Janssen Pharmaceuticals, Inc., and Janssen Pharmaceutica, Inc., collectively Janssen, provided the terms of such settlement are substantially the same as the terms which were explained to council today in executive session.
Duly motioned to second, please. Second. Mr. Cunningham makes the second. Motioned and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, this will be approved without objection, and I see no objections. The second item is item number 10. Ms. Howard, would you read that motion, please?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to make a motion to extend the deadline to apply for special assessment ratio. I move that County Council extend until March 16th, 2022.
I believe it's March 17th.
No, it's 16th.
16th?
Verified with our attorney. The prescribed time to apply for the special property tax assessment ratio for tax year 2021, that it authorize and instruct the county government, its agents and representatives to waive to the fullest extent possible any and all adverse financial consequences which could apply to such taxpayers, and to allow these taxpayers 30 days from the date on which a determination is made on their application to pay their taxes.
Duly motioned to second, please.
Second.
Mr. Somerville makes the second. Duly motioned and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, this will be approved without objection, and I see no objections. We are at item number 11, which is a presentation and public hearing of the 2022 Community Development Block Grant, known as CBDG, Low Country Council of Governments, to be done by Michelle Knight.
Good evening. I'm going to try to share my screen here. Let's see. And whoops. Hold on one second. Let's see. There we go. All right. Thank y'all for having me tonight. It's good to be able to see everybody. We are currently looking at setting our priorities for the 2022 funding year for CDBG for Beaufort County. This public hearing was advertised in accordance to the county citizens participation plan, which allows for participation of the public in the public hearings and planning for community development block grant projects, commenting on projects as we apply for them, and commenting on projects as we close them. As part of the requirements of the state to participate in this program, the county is required to follow fair housing law. And as such, we just remind everyone that the county does not discriminate in fair housing practices in the sale and rental of housing in residential real estate transactions, or the provision of brokerage services against the protected classes, which you see on your screen. If someone contacts you as a council member or a staff member of the county and thinks they have been discriminated against related to fair housing activities, if you can have them contact us at LCOG, we'll be glad to discuss the matter with them and forward any concerns to the appropriate state groups. Just to kind of scoot through this a little bit quickly. Currently for 2022, all projects that we submit for CDBG funding have to meet one of three national objectives. We have to either benefit low to moderate income people, eliminate a slum or blight issue, or address an urgent need. For 2022, HUD's data indicates to us that for a 4-person family to be low to moderate income in this program, annually their household would have to be earning less than $62,000 a year. And as you can see, that number goes up or down based on the number of people in the household. For 2022, we are estimating that the state will receive $20.1 million in federal funding for CDBG. This money will be allocated among their regular programs. There's nothing that's changed much. Currently, the program description is up for public comment right now. So if you have any concerns that you would like to voice to South Carolina Department of Commerce, this is the email contact for the person at Commerce. You need to discuss that with Lisa Ross, and their mailing address as well. And they'll have a public hearing for the program itself on Thursday, the 27th, this Thursday. And I believe it's at 2 p.m. So if you'd like to participate in that virtually, there's an opportunity for you to do that at Commerce's website. The three broad program categories that we're going to discuss tonight briefly are community development, business development, and regional planning. And the breakouts for those programs are as follows. So for community infrastructure, which is our spring round, there's $11.3 million that's available. The application requests are due in mid-March. The application deadlines are due mid-April. This is what we call our water, sewer, drainage, and road set aside. The maximum amount of funding here that you can receive is $750,000. There's a 10% match, and there is an allowance for you to waive that maximum funding amount for a larger amount if you can show a special need to do that. The next set aside under community development I'd like to discuss is community enrichment. This is our fall round, what we call our facilities program. You have an August, a mid-August request deadline, a mid-September application deadline. This program typically does things such as streetscape, demolition projects, improvements to libraries or other publicly owned facilities that benefit low to moderate income people. We can do fire substations or fire trucks that serve a low to moderate income area. We can look at health clinics and facilities here. We can also look at sidewalks. This is where one of the areas where we can do sidewalks, such as what you're doing with Detour Road right now in Whale Branch. The maximum amount of funding in this set aside for a project is $500,000 unless you're doing a streetscape project. Then we can look at $750,000. The next set aside we want to discuss briefly is special projects. There's $1 million set aside here. This again has a fall application request and deadline, the same as community enrichment. In this, we can look at historic preservation, public health and safety projects, trails and greenway projects, and the maximum amount of funding has been bumped to $250,000 on this set aside. And then the remaining two community development set asides are neighborhood revitalization. This is again a fall round program where you have a fall application request and deadline. This is where you take a low to moderate income neighborhood and you basically do what amounts to a mini comprehensive plan. You look at all the things that need to be addressed in that neighborhood. You look at the infrastructure, meaning the water, sewer, roads, and drainage. You look at lighting, police substations, security issues. You look at housing, or infrastructure to support housing, and you look at demolition of attractive nuisance properties. You look at all those things, and you basically prepare a plan, make recommendations, and you can receive anywhere from $500,000 to $750,000 for a project there based on the recommendations. The $750,000 max is only if you're doing infrastructure, because we found that with these projects, because you're doing multiple activities, that typically water, sewer, or roads or drainage can chew up a lot of a $500,000 budget. The ready to go set aside, the remaining one in community development has a $600,000 set aside. These are non-competitive projects where you've basically done everything that you need but for bidding a project to be ready to go. And you can do any of the activities that we look at in community infrastructure and community enrichment. There's a $500,000 max, but we can waive that under certain circumstances. These are typically projects that cannot wait for the regular competitive funding round to be able to work on. Again, as I mentioned before, any of these projects that we pursue have to meet a national objective, and we do have a match requirement of 10% on all projects that we look at. The remaining two categories are business development. This is also a non-competitive project or set aside where we can go in and actually receive grant funding to provide public infrastructure to support new or existing businesses that are expanding and creating jobs. where we can address economic development activities that can be catalysts in a low-income area, and where we can look at helping do public infrastructure, new or expanding local businesses that provide an essential good or service to a predominantly low-income area. The maximum here that you can receive for a project is contingent upon the amount of private investment and job creation that's involved in the project. For the state of South Carolina, most of the time these projects average around $5,000 per job that's created. So in order to receive a $500,000 grant, you'd be looking at least 100 jobs. Then the final set aside is regional planning, and that is the small $50,000 planning grants. They're awarded to each of the 10 COGs across the state for us to be able to do public hearings like this, and also to be able to meet with your staff and discuss new projects and project development. Some other things related to scoring criteria under this program now. Projects that we do that are located within opportunity zones get extra points in scoring in the competitive rounds. Also, as far as threshold is concerned, a county can have, or local government can have up to 3 open and active projects at a time. This excludes any planning, regional planning grants or business development grants. So this is your community development projects. Currently, right now, Beaufort County has 2 projects, so that means that they could pursue 1 additional project. But after that, if it's funded, then they would have to close a project before we could pursue anything else. Also, with threshold, you can have no more than 1 neighborhood project or streetscape project. The county has none of these. You can have no more than 1 ready-to-go project. The county has none of these. Right now, your 2 projects are sidewalk projects that I think were funded under community enrichment. So you're good on where that's concerned. And then there can be no more than 1 project in the same general target area open at the same time unless the first project is under construction. So, for example, with this, since your current projects are at Detour Road and in the Whale Branch area, you could not do another project in that area or apply for another project in that area until you get these 2 projects under construction. The other program that I want to mention briefly while we're talking is our Home Consortium program. Every year, Barbara Johnson in our office has to put together an action plan for our Home Consortium funding in order to set priorities for the coming year for the Home Consortium. Currently, our top 3 objectives are rehabilitation of substandard housing, increasing accessibility to adequate and affordable housing, and supporting the development of new, safe, decent, and affordable housing, along with asking you to set your ranking for the year for CDBG. We do ask that if you have any discussions that you want to have with us about the housing priorities for the consortium, that you also get with us about that as a separate issue to setting your priorities for CDBG. That is the end of my formal comments related to the public hearing. I'll be glad to answer any questions about the program as it is now. And I would remind you that after y'all take public comment tonight, I think typically it's been the county's position that y'all put this to committee and y'all prioritize your needs through committee and then bring it back to council. If there's any idea that y'all want to pursue something for spring round, then that ranking needs to be formalized before March 14th. So y'all would need to to go to committee and bring it back to council before March 14th, when those application requests go in.
Okay, thank you very much, Michelle. Before we go to council members, is there any member in the audience who wishes to make a comment regarding this public hearing? Seeing none, is there any member of council wishes to make a comment, ask a question before we move on? Seeing none, thank you very much, Michelle, for your presentation. We have all the documentation, and we will move on to the next round of what we have to do.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Item number 12 is the second reading of an ordinance amending the fiscal year 2022 general fund for Graves Road. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Mr. Cunningham makes the motion, and Mr. Rodman, you will make the second?
Yep.
Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I will vote for this because it's where the money's coming from. It's going to happen anyway, although I don't want to vote for it. I will vote for it.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other comments?
Yeah, I'm going to
Mr.
vote
Somerville.
against it for reasons previously stated.
Very good.
Mr. Chairman, on this side here, on your right,
Yes, Mr.
I will
Glover.
follow Mr. Somerville on this one.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Flewelling.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've been opposed to this for quite a while here since this matter has come before County Council in this iteration. I'm going to vote for it with finality, but I would like Council to consider adding more money to our roads, our tag funds anyway, and taking on some extra projects. We've short-circuited that. It seems like we have a little bit of extra money in the budget, and I would hope that would be one of the things that are considered as good and valuable use for that extra money. Eric, I know you're going to comment and say yes, of course. So, you can go ahead and have a seat. I think everybody will probably agree to it. I just want to tee that up so that when it comes around, it's not a surprise that we're advocating for adding money to the tag funds to get more dirt roads paved in Beaufort County at a quicker pace than we would otherwise, because it looks like we may have a shortage of funds in the tag account anyway, due to other matters. So thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. You can count me as a yes.
Okay. Any other comments? Mr. Dawson.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to vote against this as well. I voted against it at the last meeting, and I'm not supportive of us of funding this road through the mechanism that we have chosen.
Very good.
The tag funds I would have supported, but I'm not going to support this.
Mr. Lawson.
Yes, I'm going to support this. This is a commitment that was made by council previously. And again, it's something that we need to move forward with, even though I know some people don't like it, and I completely understand that. But again, it's a commitment we've made, and we need to go ahead and move forward.
Okay, any other comments? I'm going to call the roll to ensure that everybody's vote is counted as they wish to vote. We will begin with Mr. Cunningham, since you made the motion.
Yes.
Mr. Dawson?
No.
I'm sorry, Mr. Rodman, you were the second. You will go next.
Yes.
Mr. Flewelling?
Yes.
Mr. Glover?
Abstain.
Mr. Hervishon? You're on mute, Mr. Hervishon.
I think he stepped away.
Okay.
Come back.
Ms. Howard?
Yes.
Mr. Lawson?
Mark Lawson, yes.
Mr. McKellen?
Yes.
Mr. Somerville?
No.
Chair says yes. Mr. Hervishon, are you back online?
Yes, sir, I'm a yes.
Okay. Therefore, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 yes, 2 no, 1 abstention. Motion is carried. We're on to item number 13, which is the second reading of an ordinance amending the fiscal year 2022 general fund budget to purchase the BCSO dowling lots. A motion, please.
So moved.
Mr. Somerville. A second, please.
No second. the motion.
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Howard made the second, duly motioned and seconded. Any discussion? I see no discussion. This will be approved without objection.
I will actually vote against it.
Okay?
Wes.
Roll call.
Yep, we'll have to call the roll. Mr. Somerville, you made the motion. You will go, I'm sorry, is there anyone else who wishes to make a comment before I call the roll? Seeing none. Okay, Mr. Somerville, you made the motion. You will go first.
Somerville, yes.
The second was Ms. Howard. You will vote next.
Yes.
Mr. Cunningham,
No.
Mr. Dawson,
Yes.
Mr. Flewelling,
Yes.
Mr. Glover,
Yes.
Mr. Hervishon,
No.
Mr. Lawson,
Mark Lawson, yes.
Mr. McKellen,
Yes.
Mr. Rodman,
Yes.
and the chair says yes. The vote is 9 yes, 2 no, and approved. Item number 14 has been removed from the agenda. Item number 15, I would ask for a motion that reads as follows. Move that County Council amend Article 9, Government-Owned Property and Facilities, Division 2 of the Beaufort County Code of Ordinances to include a new section, Section 2-675, Camping Prohibited, as set forth in today's agenda materials. May I have such a motion, please? Mr. Somerville makes the motion. A second, please.
Sir.
Mr. Flewelling, you made the second?
Thank you. Yes.
Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, this will be approved without objection, and I see no objections. Item number 16, I would ask that a member of council move that County Council amend Article 3, Section 2 of the 2020 Business License Tax Ordinance so that the definition of business means any business, calling, occupation, profession, or activity engaged in with the object of gain, benefit, or advantage, either directly or indirectly. In addition to the above described activities constituting doing business in the county, an individual shall be deemed to be in business if that individual owns and rents 2 or more residential units or holds a partial interest therein within the county, excluding the municipalities therein. This applies to long-term residents of 30 days or more only.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Flewelling makes the motion. A second,
I'll
please.
second.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'll second.
Mr. Dawson made the second. Duly motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, this will be approved without objection, and I see no objections. Item number 17, I would ask for a motion for an ordinance approving the conveyance of portions of the right-of-way known as Bostic Road and authorizes the county administrator to execute the necessary documents.
Again, I'll make the motion, sir.
Mr. Flewelling makes the motion. Second, please.
Second.
Mr. Glover makes the second. Duly motioned and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, this will be approved without objection, and there are no objections. I would ask for a member to make a motion for the first reading of an ordinance appropriating the funds from the Accommodations Tax Fund based upon recommendations from the Accommodations Tax State 2% Board to tourism-related organizations in the amount of $800,000. A motion, please.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Howard makes the motion, second. Mr. Somerville makes the second. Duly motioned and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, this will be approved without objection, and I see no objections. Number 19, I ask for a motion for the first reading of an ordinance amending the 2021-2022 budget, ordinance to approve the funding of the Boundary Street Tennis Courts project and to make appropriations therefore. Motion, please. Mr. Somerville made the motion. Second.
I'll second the motion, sir.
Mr.
I'll second the
Flewelling
motion.
makes the second.
Chairman, discussion.
Thank you.
What?
Duly motioned and seconded. Mr. Fralix, you have a comment before we take action.
I apologize. On this item, in the backlit documentation, it had both the ordinance and the contract award. So I would ask that that be considered as part of this motion, is both the recommendation of first reading as well as the recommendation of award for the IFB number 112221 for the Boundary Street Tennis Courts.
Okay, and do we have a figure for that?
Yes, it's $752,180.
Now, did the motioner and the second hear that, and are they
I
willing
made
to
the
make
motion,
it?
I heard that. I was aware of that anyways.
Okay,
and
Mr.
that was-
Flewelling, are you accepting of that?
Yes, I read the backup, sir.
Excellent, okay. All right, any further discussion?
I'll just amend my motion to include and to incorporate that language.
Yep.
Yeah, a second agrees.
A second agrees, okay. Duly amended and agreed to. Any discussion? This will be done without objection. I see no objection, so that item is approved as amended. Item number 20 is a resolution to accept the 2022 Palmetto Pride Litter Crew Grant Award. May I have a motion for that resolution, please?
Make that motion.
Mr. Lawson makes the motion.
I'll second the motion.
Ms. Howard makes the second. Duly motioned and seconded. Any discussion? This will be approved without objection. Mr. Somerville.
Yeah, I would like to make a comment. It's just a tangential comment, and that is that this is great, and as far as it goes, but I hope we will continue to consider adding litter crews from either ARPA funds possibly, or ATAX or HTAX funds. I think that's something that needs to stay on the burner as far as I'm concerned. So, thank you.
Any other comments? Seeing no further comments, this will be approved with.
I want to speak on number 19. If that was acceptable?
Why didn't you come forward when we had the public hearing?
Well, you didn't ask, I don't know, did you ask for public comment for that?
He wasn't here during the public comment session, but it's already been voted on.
Yeah.
I mean, it wouldn't.
Yeah.
It's a done matter. I mean, he's welcome to speak at the second public.
Yeah, at the second one you can speak. Okay, this will be approved without objection, and I see no objections. Item number 20 has been duly motioned and seconded. There was a comment. Any further action? This will be approved without objection, and I see no objections. We are now at item 21. I would ask a member to have a resolution authorizing the county administrator to execute any and all necessary documents for the acceptance of properties encumbering the road right-of-way for School Road. Motion and second, please.
So moved, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, let me ask you a question. Can we do 21, 22, and 23 together?
Absolutely, we can. I will ask you to make a motion for the resolution for the right-of-way of School Road, Church Road, and Francis Jones Road.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Glover makes the
second,
motion
Chairman.
for 21, 22, and 23, and Mr. Flewelling, you will second those?
That's correct, sir.
Okay, duly motioned and seconded. Any discussion on those? Seeing none, items 21, 22, and 23 will be approved without objection, and I see no objections. Item number 24 is a resolution extending the prescribed time to apply for the special property tax assessment ratio.
We've already done this item, sir.
Oh, yeah, we did. I'm sorry. Item number 25. A resolution creating a Citizens Advisory Committee to recommend possible 2022 transportation sales tax projects list and/or value duration limitation. May I have such a motion?
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Howard made some motion. A second, please.
I'll second.
Mr. Glover makes the second. If you saw in the documentation that is attached, there are 7 items as part of this resolution. And one of the things we have to do is the appointment should be communicated to the chairman of county council no later than a certain date. What we have established in this resolution is we're looking for a citizens committee, that a member of each county council district be part and parcel of this committee, that we go to each of the 6 municipalities in Beaufort County, have them have a member of county council, that we do this in a timely fashion. So one of the things we need to discuss is what is that date we want for submission to the chair of county council? Anybody have an opinion as to what date we should set?
Well, in the documents, it says April 29th.
Well, April 29th is the deadline.
Right.
It's the submission to myself to create the committee that we need some idea of how long do we think each of you will have to go out and find somebody in your particular district that could be part of this committee.
Then I recommend we change that wording, because number 4 says the committee's complete its work by April 29th. On number 4 of the project item narrative on the cover page, it says that they will complete the work by the 29th. Not
And
that we'll have a
that's
group.
number 5, yeah, that we want them to complete their work by the 29th.
So then that's not the date of us to create the board. That's
No, we want to create this group long before that. You know, is it a week from now, 2 weeks from now, a month from now? You know,
Mr. Chairman, what about February 11th? I'll just throw it out there.
that's fine, you know.
What did you throw out there, Alice?
February 11th.
That's a Friday.
Yeah, I mean, time is really of the essence. So
Yes.
I think Ms. Howard is probably spot on, so I'll support that date.
Okay, so is that an acceptable date to everybody on council? That you would have time to talk to somebody in your district, get the name and submit the name to myself before, no later than February 11th. But hopefully, we get everybody before February 11th. Mr. Dawson.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to vote against this. I think our timing is off. We had a referendum for road projects that just failed, and I think by us coming forward now and trying to do another one in 2022 is a little bit rushing. I would prefer us to push it out to 2024, and so I'm not going to support this.
Okay. Any other comments? We were talking about a date. Mr. Glover.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to ask Mr. Dawson a question. If the resolution passes, will you submit a name?
Most certainly, I have to. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. All right. So February 11th will be the date. There is no other objection on that. There is one other issue that we have to discuss. When this came about, we were talking about BTAG, which is the Beaufort County Transportation Advisory Group. That is a separate group. It is not in this original resolution. And the reason it's not in this original resolution is because we would have 2 groups doing the same thing. And one of the things that we want to pride ourselves in is getting public input. If we were to have a citizens group going down path A and BTAG going down path B, I'm not sure that the people on path A would say, why am I doing this if this group is going to do the same thing? So BTAG may be essential later on, once we get the information from them, but I don't believe it is essential at this point in time. And that's why it's not part of this resolution. Any comments about that? Okay, so we have the date set in the resolution. We have it duly motioned and seconded. Is there any further discussion?
I have a couple comments as well after Mr. Rodman.
Go ahead.
Mr. Rodman.
Oh, well, let me back up and tell you where I think we are. As I look at the possibilities of referendums, historically, what we've done is had a 4-year with a defined couple of projects, which is what we did in 2018. I think it would be extremely difficult to do that type of a referendum in the time period that we're talking about for a variety of reasons, including the fact that we haven't spent very much money from the 18 one. There's a lot of issues around 278 and so on. However, I've come to believe in talking with staff that a longer term, say just for talking purposes, a 10-year may make a lot of sense. Charleston's had some good experience with that. I think York County has and others. And so to me, that's the path that we need to go on. And interestingly, if you look at the amount of money that was generated in the comprehensive plan, it was about $1.2 billion, as I remember. And if we were to look out roughly 10 years and, at the current run rate and a little inflation, we're probably at about half of that amount, $600 million. They're big, big numbers. And I think it may be easier to convince the public to something longer rather than shorter. From a pure dollar standpoint, if you look at the fact that construction costs are rising much faster than interest rates, it does make sense to have the ability to initiate more projects and then pay for them over a larger period of time. So I am in favor of a longer one rather than a shorter one. I do have a concern about what is on the table that we're voting on now, which is the Citizens Committee. I have no objection to the Citizens Committee, but essentially the proposal that's on the table is that everything would be done kind of sequentially. We're going to appoint the people, then they're going to elect a chairman, then they're going to go through their rules, and they're going to look at what the staff recommendations are, and then they're going to come forward with some kind of a recommendation around the 1st of May. And then at that point in time, we would get into information or recommendations from BTAG. Then we got public facilities, and we're going to have public hearings, and then we're going to have 3 readings. And we're already late in the game. And so I personally don't see how we can actually digest something that's the biggest referendum in the history of Beaufort County in a very short period of time. Now, so for that reason, not against the Citizens Committee, but I would vote against the proposal that's here. And I wouldn't recommend things, I wouldn't vote against things without having an alternate suggestion. And I think actually the best way to do it would be actually to get the staff recommendation sooner rather than later, and actually have 3 things happening in parallel. One would be the Citizens Committee with their input. And they, I think, play an important long-term role in the sense that if you're doing a referendum for a long period of time, we can't identify all the projects over the next 10 years. So you really have to have a methodology of how projects are going to be approved. And the Citizens Committee, to me, is a very logical vehicle to do that. So they play a role in the short term while we're doing the referendum, but I think they play a role in the long term in terms of prioritizing projects. And I think they created a degree of comfort with the citizens that it's not just give us a bunch of money, trust us, we'll spend it wisely, but we actually have a mechanism to do it. So that's one leg. I think actually it would be useful to have the BTAG actually running in parallel, because it's made up of some representatives from council, from the municipalities, the sheriff, the chairman of the county
I've lost
transportation
audio.
committee.
Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
I hear Brian, but I can't hear Stu.
I'm sorry?
We kind of lost audio, Stu. Can you rewind for like 30 seconds?
Yeah, okay, so essentially what I had said was, not opposed to the Citizens Committee. I think it's a wonderful thing to have. I'm objecting to the path that we're on to do all of these tasks sequentially, and particularly if we get to the April 29th, to get everything else that we have to do done is almost an impossible task in my mind. And so I was saying, I think the better alternative is to do three things in parallel. One is the Citizens Committee, which I think plays a valuable role in input to the referendum, but they have a continuing role, because if we go the long-term route, we need to convince the public that there's a mechanism to allocate the funds and not just leave it to county council. Otherwise, you have a trust me type of thing. Secondly, I do believe the BTAG would be useful because it provides the direct feedback from the municipalities and the elected officials. So, and there's a big political aspect that can happen in parallel. And thirdly, I think we actually have to be debating this in parallel. So, in my mind, time is short, and we're better off to do the three things that we need to do in parallel as opposed to doing them end to end, because I don't believe we can get there from here. And I think we would. I think the referendum would be doomed if we go down the sequential path. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Any other?
I'm gonna make a comment, but I think you were first.
After you.
Sure?
Absolutely.
Oh, good. You're gonna like what I say then, right?
I might.
Give me a thumbs up, thumbs down.
All right, I got you.
I do want to make a comment because, well, a couple of comments actually. The value of a penny in Beaufort County has increased almost exponentially. I mean, for those of us who've been around for a few years, $20 or $30 million was a lot of money, and that's about what we thought of it as, maybe 30 million on the upside. It's now pushing $50 million. It's a large amount of money annually. And every year that we go by without a penny out there, that's what's 40% of 50 million? That's $20 million that's not being paid by the visitors and the tourists to Beaufort County. That's the beauty of a sales tax, is it falls at least 40%, depending on whose numbers you like, or more, on the visitors and tourists. And these are the folks that are using up our infrastructure as much as those of us who actually live here. So just every year that ticks by, that's 20,000 plus from tourists that we're not getting to help us with the infrastructure that we know we need. Second thing I'd like to say is that I think everyone here is aware that the Senate passed a bill that authorizes counties to use a referendum for sales tax for purposes of land preservation. And heretofore, we've had to rely on our own citizens to pay 100% for land preservation, particularly for our rural and critical lands program. The Senate passed it. It's now in the Ways and Means in the House, and there's a very good chance that it might pass. And if it does pass, I think that we should at least have a discussion to decide whether or not we want to take a portion of a penny and use it for that purpose. There's nothing sacrosanct about a penny. It can be 3/4 of a penny, or 0.8 of a penny, or half a penny, or whatever. So and every time we talk about a penny, which sounds small, we're really talking about at least $50 million a year. So a quarter of $50 million a year is a lot. So is 10% of $50 million a year a lot. So what I'd like to say is, before we finalize what we're going to do with this referendum, I'd at least like for us to have a conversation about whether we want to include part of that penny, if that's what it is, for purposes of land preservation, assuming that this legislation gets through the House. And I think if it's going to get through the House, it's going to happen fairly quickly. So anyway, I just want to put that out there for us to think about as we move forward, because wouldn't be anything wrong with having a referendum that said, define the road projects, the capital projects, and also whatever percentage we might determine for land preservation. Because one of the things we can do to preserve our roads is to not bring so many people down here to live here. Because the more people that come, the more pressure they're going to put on the infrastructure. And to the extent that we can preserve more land, or even up to the point of buying development rights, which has already been discussed, places like Bluffton where everything is already under PUD from years gone by, we can reduce the pressure on this infrastructure just in that way alone. So anyway, that's just part of a discussion I hope we can have before we finalize anything here. Thank you,
That'll
sir.
be down the road. Mr. Cunningham.
Oh, I'm sorry. Just to Mr. Somerville's excellent point, the transportation sales tax statute allows for green belts to be one of the allowed expense items in it. So it's already in the law.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Very much.
Thank you. Mr. Cunningham.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will say this is a frustrating situation we're in, because Mr. Dawson and Mr. Rodman are right. We're kind of putting a crunch on this entire project. A lot of that has to do with the local option sales tax that we tried to put in the last referendum. I was openly against that for this exact reason. This exact argument that I made was, we're coming back next year to try to do the transportation tax. And I said it's going to put us in a bind, whether it passes or doesn't pass. And here we are today trying to cram this in as fast as possible, because I do think 2022 was the right time to do it. So with that being said, short-armed or not, I do want to support this, and I want to try to get this done. I want to get this done as quickly as possible and as efficiently as possible. One of the things I will make it known on my side of where I stand, if 5B comes up on this project at all, I will not support it. Because nobody can tell my area, my district, or the rest of Bluffton if that road is actually going to connect to 95 or not. The same situation we have the people on Buckwalter, we're going to have the same situation with the people in Sun City when that road wants to connect to 95. So until that can be resolved completely all the way down to the new exit, I will tell you, if it's on this referendum, whether I support the referendum or not, to getting that funding, I will not support it. The one part I do disagree with Mr. Rodman on is the length of it. I'm for something shorter, like we did last year with 4 years. I want to have an end date. I want to have a cap. Financially, whichever one comes first. The reason I'm for it shorter is because we are growing as fast as we are. And things change. Things change a lot. Just like 5B was originally passed in 2004, and now people want nothing to do with it because things have changed. Different projects become more important. Different areas grow. Right now, a lot of growth is happening on 170, and 10 years ago, we would not have thought that whatsoever, that it was going to 170. So with that being said, I am in support of this. I want to make sure that, which it does say on number 5, that we will have the opportunity for revisions on our level as council members before it goes to a vote to see if we're going to put it on the referendum. So I do like to see that on there. I think Jared, having him on this committee is more valuable than anything else we have in this room, honestly, because he is well versed in every single area in this district when it comes to the roads. I've worked him on the other projects, and I think his opinion on that should definitely be heard by us. I will support it, like I said, but I just want to say that we do have to get the ball rolling on this if we're going to get the support of the community behind it. And I think this group, this committee group, is the only way we're going to get that support on such short notice. We have to hear out from all different likes and every organization that we possibly can to try to get the support of the community to get it passed.
Mr. Chairman, I have one last comment.
Yes.
You know, the old saying, it's 6 o'clock somewhere. It's 4 o'clock and the McTier Bridge is down. And that impacts not only everyone on this side of the river, and it's down because of an accident. If it's 4 o'clock, there's an accident at McTier. It impacts everyone on St. Helena, everyone on Ladies Island, and then everything goes downtown to Bay Street in northern Beaufort County. I know there's similar places in southern Beaufort County. If it's 4 o'clock, there's an accident. If it's 6 o'clock, there's going to be an accident somewhere. Yeah. And I think Jared Felix knows how we need to solve these problems. And the greenways and the other things that we can do with this, such as more sidewalks, will get less cars on the road, which is what we need to.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I mean, I wasn't gonna say anything. I do support this, but I do want to comment and echo what Mrs. Howell just said. 7 a.m. in the morning, there's an accident at the Chowing Creek Bridge, and 4 hours later, people are getting to work. So there is a need all over this county.
Absolutely
there's only one
agree
way
with
on
you.
St. Helena and one way off. And when there's an accident there that's major, that stops our community. Thank you.
Okay. If there are no further comments, I'd like to call the roll on this. The date in item number 1 is February 11th. All other things are there. The motioner was Ms. Howard. You will go first.
Yes.
Ms. Howard says yes. The second was by Mr. Glover.
Yes.
Mr. Cunningham.
Yes.
Mr. Dawson.
No.
Mr. Flewelling.
No.
Mr. Hervishon.
No.
Mr. Lawson.
Mark Lawson, yes.
Mr. McKellen.
Yes.
Mr. Rodman.
No.
Mr. Somerville.
Yes.
Chair says yes. There are 7 yes, 4 no. The recommendation, the resolution has been approved. That takes us to the second citizen comments. Sir, did you want to make a comment regarding the tennis courts?
Good evening. My name is Joe Mack, M-A-C, last name. Mr. Chairman, you have to forgive me. Maybe I was supposed to sign up. I thought you always asked for public comment. Forgive me.
We do. We have
Like I
a
say-
comment before we take action and after we take
Like I
action.
say, forgive me. I speak as a resident of the city of Beaufort. I played my high school matches at those courts on Boundary Street downtown when it was 5 courts, now it's 7. I hit tennis in 14 states. I coach tennis. I don't play much nowadays. Thank the Lord I have more than one hobby. Those courts, out of the 14 states I played tennis in, the courts that were closest to a road with car traffic is right there on Boundary Street. You can't get away from that traffic noise. I have good memories there, bad memories. And I hate to be so judgmental, but this has been going on for longer than 20 years. And approximately 20 years ago, you had your resolution. I see some new faces. You had the resolution to build the tennis center at Burke Wells. It never was built. I had nothing to do with that idea being pitched. No way, shape, or form had anything to do with it. Those courts on Boundary Street, for the majority of the time, they're always cracked. The place is a dump. The windscreens aren't looking too good. So you're gonna, from the documents, it looks like you're gonna spend $750K. It looked like what I saw was $59,000 for just the demolition, and then the rest was $100,000 per court, roughly. There's 7 courts. That includes the courts and the fencing. I'm not sure. It doesn't look like it's new lights. I guess you're going to use existing lights. If any courts needed windscreens, those were the ones. So the windscreen is not for the wind. It's more for the aesthetics and the contrast of the, and the ball when you're playing the tennis. So, and like I say, I'm not trying to be judgmental, but this has been going on for eons with this recreation. And you remember, some of you remember Gary Kubik? He said, you know, he even did a study, it was almost like I told you so, that the municipality should do this is the old song and dance, so the municipality should do the active recreation, just remember to send a check to the municipalities if you want them to do it. So the biggest problem with these tennis courts, at least my 2 cents, you have your thoughts, is if you would do this to tennis, because all the high schools have teams, and they're saying there's nothing for kids to do in this town for years. The problem is, if you do that to tennis, you'll do it to another recreation activity. So, I hate to say it, but you need to up your game or get out of the game. Those 7 courts, you can't you're going to have a problem putting tournaments there. There's nothing to grow on. You don't have enough courts in the early rounds. Other towns smaller than this have put courts in. You know, tennis is, it reflects life. It mirrors life, and somebody told me today, it is life. You know, you do you, and I'm gonna do me. So this is on you. It's not on us. So that if I was in the city of Beaufort, or if I worked for the city, if I worked for the city of Beaufort, I wouldn't allow that crap in my town. I would sue the county. And this has been going on. I first hit there in at least 1985, if not earlier. And how long has this been going on for? And so you're gonna tear it up and repave it. And so now there's a chance that they won't crack after 12 months, 18 months. And then what happens if they do crack? Because I think it's almost like they're hexed. I don't know, but they're going to tear it all up and do it right. It sounds like. So just food for thought. And we're 3 weeks in. Happy New Year.
Okay, we are not going to adjourn this meeting because we are going to go back into the caucus meeting for the one item that we were not able to complete, and we will come out and maybe, don't know, have some sort of action after that, and then adjourn the county meeting. So we're going to go back into executive session. So this council meeting. This meeting will be adjourned.
Now reconvene the caucus meeting,
Yes.
which will adjourn from the
Make sure Rose Hill knows.